Greetings and salutations, my excellent friends. Welcome once more to the QiRanger Adventures Podcast. This is episode number 219. One more to go before the season is done. This has been an awesome spring semester, an awesome time in Korea. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I am jazzed to have you here, and I raise my glass to you. Today's adult beverage is scotch. Hits the spot. Now, I need you to address something right off the bat. I've had a couple of comments over the last few weeks about the cheers at the beginning of the podcast. Since the podcast goes live at 5 a.m. on Sunday morning, a lot of people were under the impression that I was doing it live and drinking at 5 o'clock in the morning. No, the only thing I drink at 5 o'clock in the morning is delicious nectar of the gods coffee. No, I actually pre-record these podcasts around 5 o'clock in the afternoon on Thursdays. So it takes me a little bit of time to put the podcast together. Once I'm done recording the video and the audio for the podcast, it takes me about an hour before I can finish the audio podcast, and then a little bit extra time to do the video production on the podcast, and then a few hours to export it and upload it and all that kind of goodness. So Thursdays is when I record, Sundays when it goes live, and it's so much fun. The work week is done for me. Tomorrow I get to go in for 113 Main Street, have some fun this weekend. I am just so jazzed to be here. The weather, a lot of people are complaining that the weather is so hot in Korea, and while it is starting to get a little humid and things are starting to get a little warm, it's still fantastic. Going outside, running, it's great. I've had to take actually a little break from the runs because I hurt myself, and I gave myself a few days to do some stretching, and that really didn't completely heal me. So I decided to take this week off, and I don't think I'm going to have time tomorrow to run. So Saturday will be my first run in about a full week, and I'm really looking forward to it. So, let's get into the news, shall we? And one of the first things I want to talk about is programming. Now, I get the fortunate opportunity to work with some broadcasters here in Korea, both on the radio and sometimes in television. And one of the conversations we had recently was, what kind of programming about Korea does the world audience want to see? Because there are certain news stories that come up routinely that we just cover. There are aspects of Korean culture like K-pop that are really huge around the world, so we cover that. But what other kind of stories would people be interested in seeing? So if you want to learn something specific about Korea that maybe you haven't seen that would fit well in a television type format, please let me know. Drop a comment. Shoot me a message. I would love to know. I'd love to be able to pass that on and help my friends out in broadcasting, create some content that a worldwide audience would be really jazzed to view. Likewise, when we come back from the break, up until now, the podcast has been on the QiRanger vlog channel, which I'm really jazzed about. The response that I've been getting has been fantastic. But I'm thinking about moving it over to the QiRanger channel for season 3, keeping it on Sundays, but having Sunday be a live day over on the QiRanger channel to see if it would be interested to a larger audience. And if you have a comment, an idea about that, please let me know. I'd love to hear from you. So there we have that. I'm almost done writing all my scripts, going into pre-record a lot of content for 1013 Main Street, and then getting back and doing some of that. And on June 28th, I'll once more be on Korea Today. Now that is a live show at 7 in the morning Korea time on Arirang Television. And believe it or not, they have an iPhone app. So if you want to see me live on television, or you can actually go back and look at past shows, you can do that as well. It's really cool. I was really pleased with the app. Fantastic. You do have to create a login ID on the Arirang site and then sign in on the app, but you can watch it for free. It's pretty cool. Also, there's another app called TuneIn. TuneIn, one word. It's an awesome 30,000 radio station free app for your iDevice. And TBS EFM is one of the radio stations on there. So a couple of times, Carl Kwan and myself have now kind of hopefully gotten into the routine of tweeting before we go on air on 101.3 Main Street with the link. So if you have the app, you can just click on it and it'll launch the app on your smartphone and be able to hear us live. Pretty cool. But as always, I get to record the audio and have, or actually they record the audio, they send it to me, and it's part of the podcast. And in fact, this week, and starting this week on, all the video segments with my 101.3 Main Street appearances will be in the video podcast as well. I'm jazzed about that aspect. I got permission to do it. I'm really excited to have that as part of this podcast as well. It'll be a lot of fun. So cheers to that. I might have to get some more. Okay, let's get on to more of the hard-hitting news. And let's talk about specifically North Korea. Now, last week, 2 individuals were arrested for spying here in South Korea. Now, even though the 2 nations are still at war, there's still a lot of tension, a lot of animosity between the 2 countries. And this, I think, is a huge wake-up call for a lot of people, because even though we here in South Korea don't really think about it, and for the most part don't really believe that there will be a conventional war between the 2 countries, it doesn't mean that clandestine operations have ceased. In fact, a United States general, the one here, actually kind of alluded that there were special op missions taking place behind enemy lines in North Korea. He had to retract that and say, no, I just meant that it could be a possibility. Who knows? I, for one, don't really trust military people. They're probably doing something, if not actually on the ground in some way, shape, or form, using satellites or other reconnaissance craft to peer behind that curtain. But 2 people here were arrested for spying. And in fact, just recently, a politician in the South Korean government who used to be pro-unification, pro-North Korea, was caught on film chastising a North Korean defector for dishonoring her family for defecting. What's up with that? Everyone knows that life in North Korea is crap. They brainwash you. They don't have food. It's not a life worth living. And to come out and just say that is just irresponsible, irreprehensible. It's bad form. And I really hope that after this next cycle of elections, she's just out of there. That you don't need a person like that in office. But when it comes to also North Korea, there has been an interesting development. Recently, they just had their Children's Festival. And in North Korea, since the formation of DPRK, there's been, I want to say, not coalitions, but groups formed where people would have comradeship. The military, the workers' union, the women's comradeship events, and the children's festivals. And a lot of people here in South Korea were questioning the purpose of the festivals and the purpose of these gatherings in North Korea because of the famine situation, that all this money was being spent for this grandiose celebration while people were starving, while people didn't have food. And I think that's a legitimate question. Why have an extravagant celebration, an extravagant event when people can't eat? I think that is a good question. North Korea found out about it and issued threats against conservative media outlets here in South Korea for saying that, and specifically the Donga-ilbo. And I don't know if anything's going to happen, but they kind of linked it to the whole statement that they're going to unleash an unprecedented wave of terror, of destruction on South Korea. Who knows? I don't know. But a lot of people are taking it seriously because they specifically targeted some news outlets. And again, with their efficacy, with their ability to create cyber problems, it's not something just to like throw off into into the nether etherland. One last story, and Busan Kevin mentioned it first on his video. I saw it in the news. A physics instructor in Canada was suspended for issuing a 0 for two students who didn't complete assignments, who didn't do homework, and I think that's crap. Kevin went on to mention a few different things, but I have kind of a different take on that. Number one, the school had a zero policy, a no tolerance for zeros. I don't even know what to call it. It's a policy where you can't issue a 0 to a student, which I think is stupid. If you don't do the work, you get a 0. And the teacher violated that policy. So even though it's a bad policy, the teacher agreed to work for a school that had that policy and broke the rules. So there's going to be consequences for that. And personally, while I think the idea is bad and I think the policy is bad, I do have to side with the school in saying, you had this policy, everyone knew about it, the teachers had ways to file grievances, and they could always leave if they don't want to work for an organization that has that policy. Everyone always has that right. But the teacher decided to stay, and it's the consequence for issuing a 0. So let's talk about the whole policy itself, which is crap. Having a no 0 policy is crap. If you don't do the work, you fail. That's the way education is supposed to work. Unfortunately, in today's society, that is becoming less and less the case. As students, this is a passionate topic of mine. This is the reason why I don't teach in the United States, because students were being passed for not doing the work. While I was in graduate school, students were suing their high school for failing them because they didn't do the work in English. And since English was a required class and they failed the class, they were not able to graduate high school. The parents would then sue the school, and because the school didn't want to pay the lawyers to have it out in court, they then allowed the students to graduate with a passing grade. That's wrong. It's now pretty much impossible to fail a student in the United States. So you get all these students who are just going up the ladder without being able to think critically, without being able to actually do work, who expect everything to be given to them. And as we are here in Korea, that's still the case. Barack Obama says he loves Korean education. He loves the hands-on approach that parents have to the education here in this nation. And to a lot of extent, that is true. But in elementary school, in middle school, in high school, there's a drive to get into college. There's a lot of hand-holding that goes along with that. And if you're at a hagwon and you issue a failing grade, the parent just takes their student and goes someplace else. So what you have is a business model where you can't effectively give a failing grade. You have to give the grade that the parent wants to keep the student, to keep the revenue. In college, because they've had all this pressure to get into college, usually the first year, maybe the second year, the students lose their minds. They don't want to do the work. I'll give you a prime example. In my classes, they have to take a required university test. They have 4 months to take the test. It's required. Every week I say, you have to take this test. It's 20% of your grade. Take the test. And then the last week of school comes, Professor, I forgot. I didn't take the time. So I give you a 0. It's a no-brainer. When I was in 6th grade, true story, I was in 6th grade chemistry class. I wish I remembered this teacher's name because he had a huge impact on me. I remember very much the aspect of the class. Chemistry class it was a magnet level class, advanced class, but he had a policy. If you misspelled the word conclusion on your paper, no matter what grade you would have earned, you got an F. If you got 2 Fs in the class, he didn't give you an F. He gave you a 0. And that was equivalent to 2 Fs, which was even less than an F. And one day I was rushed. I didn't check my spelling. I didn't check my work. I got the F for misspelling conclusion. It was a very powerful lesson. Now, to this day, there are a lot of times I just don't proofread. I just blow through things and get things done. But because of that past, because of those actions, I had more appreciation for the teaching side of things, for the learning side of things. And I think that is gone today. I think students have it too easy. I think students are not being pushed. And mainly it's because I think of society and our pursuit for material things. Cost of living continues to go up, which requires parents to have multiple jobs, to have 2-income families, sometimes 3-income families if one parent is working multiple jobs, or if an older family member is working a job and assisting with the financial responsibility. Because of those endeavors, sometimes parents can't focus on the educational development of their children, and the children don't have the necessary self-starting behaviors instilled in them with them to be fantastic learners. So they just idle by. They don't really try to succeed. And becomes we start developing a society of lackluster people. And I really hope that as time progresses, there is an educational movement that changes that. I'm not sure. I mentioned it a couple of weeks ago with the change in education curriculum here in Korea, with the removal of the evolution points from the textbooks, the picture of Archaeopteryx and the horse evolution pictures. That story has now been picked up by, I think, Nature, and has seen a resurgence in a lot of the blogs here in Korea. So I think that is a step in the wrong direction. And I think, again, where is that critical thought going to take place? Where is that discussion on what is evolution? What's the theory? What's the critical critique of that theory? Where is it weak? Where is it strong? How does creationism support evolution? How does creationism detract from evolution? Those are the kinds of conversations that would be meaningful in a classroom. But it's not going to happen. Not going to happen. So there you have it. A lot of news this week. It is time once more for the Content Rewind. Cheers to you, my friends. So good, so smoky. Really hits the spot. All right, the big story this week on Tuesday was the comprehensive review of the Seoul Millennium Hilton, one of the nicest 5-star hotels here in the Seoul area, located, well, pretty much directly across the street from Seoul Station, behind the Seoul Square building. Now, how did this story come about? A lot of fun. If you remember a while ago, a little over a year ago, I did a press tour with Hanu-san, expat Carrie, and a few other folks through Hana Tour around the southern areas of Korea. And one of the properties we stayed at was the Namhae Hilton. And as per what we were asked to do on this press tour, we created videos about our stay, what we did, what we didn't do, and just had a lot of fun exploring Korea, sharing our experiences on the fly, but also in blog posts and videos after that. Well, the PR manager of the Namhae Hilton loved what I did in that series of videos and stuff. So I asked him, I said, we have a lot of questions about where to stay in Seoul. Because we live so close to Seoul, we don't stay overnight there. I was wondering if you might be able to point me in the right direction of a contact at one of the Hilton properties in Seoul that I could go review. So that happened. We connected. We arranged to stay. And I have to say, it was awesome. I've been to the Hilton a number of times for professional events. In fact, in 2008, I saw the finals for the Australian Football League there with the Australian New Zealand Chamber of Commerce. Had some beer, had some great Australian barbecue. It was a good time. So good. Just sit back, watch some footy on the satellite feed, have some steak, have some beer. Yeah, it was a good time. So we set up a stay. And I arrived there, was shown around, shown up to the room, had a great time. I took probably 3-4 hours worth of footage, but I really wanted to condense the actual produced video as short as possible to show you, here are the highlights. This is the highlight of a stay at the Millennium Hilton. And then add to that some raw video. This is a buffet. Boom, here you go. Start to finish, this is what you can see. Here's our hotel room as soon as I get in there. I don't even have time to put anything down. Boom, here's the camera. This is the room. I like this is this. Boom, you're done. Finished. It's a raw review. There's no staging. It's uncut. It's from start to finish. You get to see what a real room is. The entire staff there was amazing. I met people who have been working there for 16, 20 years. I honestly can't fathom working at a location for that long. They love their job. They love meeting people. They love having guests come back. I was blown away. I was treated so well there. Joe was treated so well there. It was fantastic. The executive room is definitely the best deal in the house. They treat you right from start to finish. They make sure that your check-in runs smoothly. They bring your bag up for you. You have access to the executive lounge. And if you're going to stay at the Hilton, you need to have the executive lounge. That sells the hotel. You have drinks, you have coffee, you have snacks, you have buffets, you have free booze. It's beautiful. While we were there, or shortly thereafter, I was on the phone with Joe McPherson and Zen Kimchi, and we were both reminiscing about our stays and how well we liked it and how well the executive lounge improved the quality of your stay. It was fantastic. For dinner, went down to Genchi restaurant, the teppanyaki place. And I have to say, I was not prepared for how much food they were going to give me. They recommended one of two set menus for the teppanyaki. It's the only 5-star teppanyaki restaurant left in a 5-star hotel in Seoul. And I was thinking, okay, I'll just have, a light meal and move on. No, they recommended a 9-course, 120,000 won meal, prepared by a 10-year veteran chef. It was brilliant. Oh my gosh, it was so good. Every course was fresh. Every course had just unbelievable taste, texture, and flavor. Oh, it was fantastic. And a question I got regarding that meal was, would I pay for it? And yes, I would pay for it. But the problem I have is, can I eat that much? I couldn't finish the meal. I got through up until the steak portion, which was the largest portion of the meal. So we had appetizer, we had a salad, we had a soup, some other vegetables and things. And I was done. I was full. And then they kept on piling on the food. So for me, it's just too much food. But if you love food and don't eat everything on your plate and just enjoy each course as it comes along, it's worth every bit of that. Considering that when you go to a Western restaurant here in Seoul and you have, let's just say you go to Vips, a steakhouse, and you have a steak, that's sometimes 40, 50,000 won right there. And you get a lot more food at this teppanyaki restaurant for this set course than you would there. So 120,000 won seems for some like a lot of money, but for the quality of food, for the food that you get, it's almost underpriced. It really is. The sea bass I had was so good. So I had a sea bass steak. You don't see that in the video. I had a sea bass steak. That was enough for me. But there was more after that. Oh yes, there was tons more food. Yeah. So the full review is on QiRanger.com. It was actually featured on the new blog layout. I changed the blog layout a little bit this month to kind of play with things. I wanted to have some kind of feature tab. So if you go to the blog site, QiRanger.com, at the very top, you'll see a featured story. And those will be some of my bigger stories. And then on the right, you'll also see some feature stories for about the past week as they come up. So the story was up there for a week, and the total review was, I think, around 1,800 words. Included a lot of pictures, not only from myself, but from Joe. Joe is working on a post, I believe, for her site, joannmiller.com, with a lot of the beauty that is the hotel. The lines, the light, the atrium is amazing. The fountains are spectacular. It really is an amazing hotel. The breakfast buffet at Cilantro was killer. The best thing, really, the best thing about that breakfast buffet was the orange juice. They made it fresh right then and there. And I put this in the review, but seriously, think about this. This is what fresh orange juice should taste like. You take the orange, you put a straw in it, you suck. That's what the orange juice tasted like. It was brilliant. It was awesome. I want to have some right now. So that was the big story. In the content rewind section of the show notes, you have links to the video and links to the blog article, which has the embedded video of the executive lounge buffet and our king room. So keeping on with the food motif, Shabu Kalguksu. Yes, a restaurant here in Dongtan serves that up. Durechi over by Dongtan E-Mart. I saw that while running one day, and I said, wow. A Kalguksu restaurant. No, Shabu Kalguksu. You have Japanese shabu shabu plus Korean knife cut noodles. Wow, that sounds pretty good. So we went there with 6,000 won per person, which is not a lot for the amount of food you get. We were stuffed. You get the three courses, kind of. You get the hot pot, you get the meat, you get the noodles. I should really go back there and ask about this, because the noodles are so fresh, they take maybe 10-15 minutes to cook. So it comes, the hot pot arrives with the vegetables in it and the broth ready to go. You put it on the stove, it heats up. We then immediately added the noodles because they took so long to cook. When the noodles were done, then we add the thinly sliced succulent pieces of beef, gave those a swish, and then started to eat. Oh, it was so delicious. Thinking back makes me so happy. So we had the Shabu Kalguksu, and then when everything was almost done, then we added the rice to make the juk, which was also tasty and delicious. And because they added kimchi and some green onions to the rice, as well as the finely chopped kim, the seaweed, it was so good. In fact, on the way home, we actually went over across the street to E-Mart to pick up some of the crushed seaweed so we could actually have that here at the home. Love it. If you like rice, take a hint from me. Get some crushed seaweed. It's awesome. A little olive oil, maybe a little sesame seed. Yeah, you're good to go. Fantastic stuff here. So that video came out. I have a few other food videos coming up, another coffee video, and some other stuff. I'm really looking forward to doing some fun stuff with food this month. A great video I hope that will be coming up in a few weeks will be with Adrian Lee, the co-host for Showbiz Korea on Arirang TV and the host of Catch the Wave on Arirang Radio. So that we have something cool and special planned for that. Over on the Korea blog, you have the Muyed Ishipsaki, the Korean martial arts, the full article with full pictures from using my 20D for that Saturday performance. The link is over in the show notes. It was a lot of fun, and if you haven't been to Suwon Fortress for that performance, you really need to go. I haven't done a video of that, and maybe when I come back in the fall, I'll do that. Maybe take Joe's video out there. Maybe I can work with the organizers to use the GoPro to get some great 60 frames per second filming done. There's just some really cool stuff you can do with that. In the I Love Korea video, that's where the slice comes from. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. All right, there you have it. Content Rewind. It is time for the question of the week. And this week's question comes from Sean Daenerys via Facebook. And he says, things you'd like to see more of in Korea and things you'd like to see in the U.S. from Korea? So this is kind of a hard question to ask. Since I've lived here for so many years, I kind of think of Korea as my home, and there's not really a lot that I miss from the United States or from other places. But things I'd love to have here in Korea. Number one is deodorant. There's a lot of stories going around that you can't find deodorant in Korea, and the truth is you can. A lot of pharmacies carry it, but well, let's see. You can see the GoPro. Let me unplug it here. The GoPro is, of course, the size of a big pack of gum. So maybe the size of a Zippo lighter. So for the size of a Zippo lighter, here's another GoPro. For the size of a Zippo lighter, you're gonna buy some deodorant that's essentially $7 or $8, which is grossly overpriced. It's essentially a travel size that you'd buy in the United States for 99 cents, but here it's $7, $8. So to buy deodorant, to get deodorant, a lot of times I rely on my family members in the United States or in the Philippines, or when we go to the Philippines, to buy deodorant and hoard it back with me. It's not that I can't find it here, I just can't find it affordable here. So that's one thing I'd love to see here. On another note, I love noodles. And in the United States, in Korea, in Indonesia, in the Philippines, you have such wonderful noodles, different flavors. However, here it's essentially spicy, not as spicy. We do have the yellow broth now, which is branching out and having a little bit more diversity. But you don't have the rich diversity in flavors that you see in some of the other Asian countries or in the United States. And I would love to have that here. There are times where I want ramen, but I'm tired of the same flavor. A lot of times when we make ramen here, Joe will use beef bouillon or chicken bouillon and then add things to it. So we have the noodles, we have the dried vegetables that come with the ramen, but we make the broth something a little bit different. So I'd like to have that. Chinese food. In Korea, your Chinese food is pretty much a fusion dish, and it's not really what you would see if you went to Chinatown or your local Chinese restaurant in the United States. So honestly, when I go back home, I crave going to good Chinese food. I crave going to Chinese buffets. I crave going to Chinatown in Manila and having the real deal. I think the last time I had Chinese food here was, I guess I had it with my old boss not too long ago. But it's just not the same. I miss it. I'm looking forward to having some good Chinese food. Panda Express, please come to Korea. There are other fast food places here, but Panda Express, please come. I love you for it. Okay, so things I'd like to see in the United States from Korea. Number one, the food. The food is very healthy. I would love to see more Korean restaurants. I'd love to be able to go into a 7-Eleven, AM, PM, what else? What a big chain of convenience stores. Circle K. I would love to go into any one of those stores in the United States and be able to pick up a kimbap, whether it be a rolled kimbap or a samguk kimbap. Those are, in my opinion, the best snack ever. If you need to go, they're $1 or $2, and depending on what size you want, and you get rice, you get some vegetables, you get some protein. It's perfect. I would love to have that. I would love to have the ability to get haejanguk or kimchi jjigae or gamjatang or Korean style barbecue without having to pay an arm and a leg for it. There's a Korean barbecue in Mesa, Arizona on Dobson Road. And I want to say it was like $15 or $16 per serving of meat, whereas here it's half that much. And you're essentially paying for that cuisine. A bottle of soju that runs $3 at a restaurant here in Korea was $7 to $15 in the States. It's crazy. It's crazy. So I would love more affordable food options in the States from Korea. And of course, the internet would be nice. Blazing fast internet here. There's no reason why in a lot of large metropolitan cities in the States, you're still dealing with antiquated and old speed. To think that my mobile phone is faster than the connections in the States, crazy. And finally, rest stops. I grew up on the road in the States. I love driving. I love being out on the road. I love exploring the country in a car. Here in Korea, they do rest stops right. They're big facilities, restaurants, showers, batting cages, sometimes musical events that take place at them. Gas stations, buying knickknacks. It becomes a social area. Granted, Korea is a lot smaller. There's a lot of issue with traffic, especially during the holidays. But that's what a rest area should be. And I'm not saying that everywhere in the United States you need to have a rest area like this. But when you're traveling by bus, traveling by car in Korea, and it's time, okay, I'm going to go over to it's time for a 15-minute break at the rest area. You go to the toilet. You go to the food court, which is amazing. You have a full convenience store there. You can buy some snacks. You can buy roasted potatoes with garlic for $1 or $2. I think it's $2 or $3. Actually, I think it's $3. That taste so good. You can pop into a convenience store and buy a bag of chips. You can buy some Diet crackers. You can buy a bottle of soda. That's what a rest area should be. I love going and then hitting the ball. Hitting the balls at the ballpark was a blast as well. It was amazing. So that's what I like to see. So there you have it. Food, internet, and rest stops. That's what I want in the United States. Coming to Korea, deodorant, flavored noodles, and of course, authentic Chinese food. Thanks for the question. It was awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time once more for the Travel Talk segment of the podcast. And this week we are headed back to 1013 Main Street, where An Jung-hyung and I talk about the strange foods around the globe. And this time, and from this time forward, I have the video from that as well. So let's go to the studio right now.
Let's hit the road with Steve Miller, the QiRanger. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you today?
I am good today.
Good.
I'm feeling a little under the weather, but...
Oh, no.
But it is Friday.
It is Friday. It's a glorious Friday.
Yeah, I got the weekend to recuperate.
Yeah, it's a long weekend for us as well.
Not for me, but...
Well, that's true. You do have to come in
most of you guys.
And do a show on Monday. But yes, Monday, Buddha's birthday, a great holiday.
So crazy energy, Steve.
Yes,
brings in crazy foods today.
Yes, we're having some fun, a little virtual trip around the world talking about food since it's right before lunchtime. What better way to introduce lunch than talk about crazy foods from around the world?
Or what better way to put people off their lunch?
Well, if you are trying to lose a little weight, maybe this will help in that endeavor as well.
Maybe. So where do we start?
Well, one of my favorite foods, and since I grew up in the American Southwest, Arizona and Texas, a lot of times we'd go across the border to Mexico. And in Mexico, you can have fresh fruit because the farming there is fantastic.
You can have fresh fruit anywhere.
You can, but they serve it up a little bit different in Mexico. What they do is they take chili powder.
Ooh.
And sprinkle it over the food.
The
hot chili. So that's one of the things that I always find funny when Koreans ask me, can you eat spicy food? And I have to tell them, I grew up in the American Southwest with Mexican food. The amount of peppers that we place in our food is amazing and varied compared to just, red pepper here.
Isn't it a different kind of spiciness? I find Mexican spiciness to be a little different from Korean spiciness.
Oh, it is different.
Yeah.
Different. Here it's just like raw heat. Whereas in the Southwest you have different kinds of peppers that add different textures and flavors to it. But I've also had some very spicy food while I was in Tijuana. And I took 2 bites of it, and that was all I could do.
That's heat too.
That's like it. But what they do is they'll take the fresh fruit, and then they'll pour it over the fruit, and then you either put a stick in it and eat it as any entree would be.
Is it a sprinkle of chili powder, or like they actually pour chili powder in it?
Well, it can be sprinkle. It can be a lot, depending on how tasty you want it. But it's a lot of fun, and it's a great way to have that heat and the juice from the fruit, especially with pineapple. Pineapple, this is great with pineapple.
Can't imagine what that's going to taste
like.
like.
It's great. And I think the next time we go to the Philippines, I may take some chili powder from Korea with me and try it there.
Sprinkle on your pineapple.
Exactly. On the beach with some chili powder.
Interesting.
So
okay.
One of the other foods here, and I know we can get this here in Korea, but of course, chicken feet.
Chicken feet.
Which is, for a lot of people, not a fun dish to have. Now, I personally don't mind chicken feet, but I think you work way too much for such a little bitty reward.
I don't like chicken feet, especially the ones that still have the toenails intact.
Well, that can be a little bit dangerous inside your mouth. But for me, I like, if I'm going to spend the time eating chicken, I want some meat.
There's not much meat.
So,
on chicken
but if you're
feet.
the kind of person that loves fried chicken for the sake of eating the skin, that fried, the batter part, then chicken feet is definitely the dish for you. Especially if you like the spicy chicken feet that you can get here in Korea as well.
They eat them in China, right?
China, Indonesia. I've had them in the Philippines, especially the Chinese, the Manila Chinatown. Their chicken feet. Really, really good.
Oh.
Really, really good. Fantastic.
You actually eat chicken feet, huh?
I do. Well, again, every now and then, my mother-in-law loves chicken feet. My wife loves chicken feet. I think it's too much work. I want some meat. I want some meat. But going to Thailand, one of my favorite dishes in Thailand, bugs on a stick.
What kind of bugs?
You name it, they have it on a stick. And you can get some scorpions, you can get some cockroaches, you can get
what? Cockroaches?
Yeah, it's great. It's fantastic. They're roasted. You just have a lot of fun with them. I remember growing up in Texas, one of our survival campouts, we had to go into the woods, and one of our jobs were to find grasshoppers.
Oh, crickets! We
And
ate.
crickets, yeah.
Or
And
grasshoppers,
you roast them. It's the same kind of premise. You find some nice little things, and you put them on the fire, they'll skewer, and
But
they'll crunch it.
cockroaches?
Everything.
You tried them?
I haven't had the cockroach. I have had a scorpion, though.
The scorpion. Does
Scorpion,
that have meat?
It's all crunchy. It's the exoskeleton's very crunchy.
So you eat with the shells?
Yes,
Oh,
yes,
okay.
you do, and take the stinger thing off so you don't hurt yourself. But it's very crunchy. In fact, I believe in either the first or second season of The Amazing Race Asia, that was one of, I think it was the first season. They had to actually go and eat 7 or 8 different scorpions.
That was the mission?
It was the first thing, right from the start line, go to this food stall and eat these things. And people who lived in Southeast Asia, as most of them did, were okay, but they had a few expats that were living that had a little bit of a time doing that.
Crunchy. Okay, other than crunchy, what's it taste like?
Well, I doused mine with a lot of hot pepper sauce, so that's
okay.
that's kind of what I did, and the cold beer was rather helpful as well. So it's something I like to do for this adventure and have a fun time doing it, but it wasn't that tasty.
Yeah.
But it was strange. It was strange.
Apparently, I used to eat roasted crickets and grasshoppers when I was a wee child.
Really?
Yes, I used to eat them. I can't eat them now. But cockroaches and scorpions, I don't know.
In Cambodia, they love to have deep fried tarantulas. Now, according to research, everyone consumes some spiders at some point in a lifetime, most notably during their sleep.
What, they just go down your throat?
Yes, you'll be sleeping with your mouth open and it goes in. Because spiders can be very, very, very tiny.
Yeah.
Think dust size. So you're sleeping and then they just pop in there and...
Most people eat them?
You never know about it. You never know about it.
So they go into your stomach and they get digested?
Yes.
And die?
And die,
Oh,
yes.
okay, that's good then.
You never know about it. But here in Cambodia, they like to deep fry them and serve them up as a tasty
But
street food.
tarantulas are huge and they're hairy.
Well, yes, but hey, they're tasty. The central body, take the legs and crunch them off, and everything's better when it's deep fried. You should know that by now.
Deep fried tarantulas.
Yes. Speaking of fun things to fry up, from the Philippines, we have isao, or chicken intestines. And these, I can attest to, are very, very good. They serve them up on the side of the road or in different food stores.
The intestines, the tubes.
Yeah,
the stomach tubes.
So think of a long barbecue or what's the skewer?
Skewer, yeah.
And it's roasted right there. So if you're in Korea and you really like sundae, then this is
well, we have
gonna be
gopchang as well, the
The
cow intestines.
cow intestines, yeah.
But chicken intestines I've not heard.
Yeah, it's very, very popular. And I think if you go to Haewa, they sometimes have them there at the Filipino market on Sundays.
Oh.
It's a very delicious dish, very cheap and affordable in the Philippines as well.
Is it chewy like the gopchang or?
Sometimes it depends on how the person cooks it up, because I've had some that are chewy and I've had some that are almost on the crispy side as well. So I'm not sure what is the preferred way of cooking them up, but very, very tasty.
On a skewer.
Now, one of the things that I am actually really curious to try is from Germany and called currywurst.
What's that?
Well, you have your bratwurst, and then it's served up and mixed with a spicy curry.
Sounds good.
And served pretty much just like a brat. You have it in bread and add a few other things with it. But it sounds delicious because I love curry, I love sausage, and this seems like a match made in heaven.
Yeah.
So, from Scandinavia, matches. Now, this is a little bit different. Matches haring, or soused herring, consists of herrings that are soaked in a brine and then eaten whole.
Oh, like fermented? Or not fermented, but salted.
Salted,
herrings.
yes.
Oh, okay.
So it's often paired with bread, pickles, diced onions, and some locals dangle it over their heads and then tear off the heads with their teeth.
I guess, anchovies, we eat them that way, or sardines, right?
True.
Italians eat sardines out of cans, and we have salted fish as well. The same thing, but I guess the herring is a little bigger, so you do have to chunk off and tear off the
over the head and just rip it off. From Morocco, they like to have snails.
French too.
The French, but when you have escargot, you think of a lovely garlic and butter sauce. Now, this isn't exactly the same. Now, this street food is simmered and sweetened in a broth that includes some mint, some spicy peppers, some bitter orange peel, maybe some licorice, some aniseed, some thyme, and even some gomme arabic.
Snail soup, then.
Kind of.
Snail
and
stew.
You ladle it out and then serve it up right there on the street.
Okay.
So that's the thing. And then, of course, in South Africa, bunny chow.
What's a bunny chow?
Well, unfortunately, it's not bunny.
Fortunately, it's not bunny. Bunnies are cute little things.
Yes, but the meat is also quite tasty. So essentially what you have is a loaf of bread, and you scoop out the entire loaf, the innards of it, and then fill it with curry and some other things. And bunny chow originally was a vegetarian dish, but now most commonly it's served either with lamb or mutton, maybe beans or chicken. And it's really, really great. Think of a meat pie.
It's a bread bowl.
A bread bowl, yeah, exactly. That's one of my favorite ways to eat chili back in the States. Some other soups, some clam chowder. So it's fantastic.
I have a delicacy I want to share with you.
Okay,
not too far from South Africa. It's this tiny little country called Malawi. Which I've had a chance to visit. And one of their local delicacies that children actually make, they catch and make on the streets. And they sell them on these long skewers on the streets. And they wave them at you as you drive by. Guess what they are? Rats.
Rats?
Wild rats. They catch these wild rats and skewer them, roast them whole. So you got the
fur
whole
and everything?
rat. Yeah, with the eyes, with the teeth, with the tail, everything.
Interesting.
Apparently, it's a delicacy. I could not bring
you couldn't
myself
bring
to
yourself
try.
to it?
I could not even bring myself to take a good look. I just had one quick
Not
look.
even a selka with
But all over Malawi, children were selling them on the streets.
Really?
Yeah.
I might have to add that to my list of foods to have.
There you go. Rats on skewers.
Now, one of my favorite dishes that I had when I was in Hawaii in the 1990s was spam
Musubi.
spam musubi. Now, I just had a conversation with my friends in Canada about spam and its place in Asian history as it refers to the war. But in Hawaii, they do things a little bit differently. And I thought this was interesting. So to create spam musubi, you slice up the Spam, cook it up, and then you serve it on a bed of steamed rice.
Yeah.
And then you can wrap it with
seaweed
and create
seaweed.
like a little hamburger with it.
Yeah.
And I think it's epic. I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
Because I love Spam.
I love Spam too.
It's so good. So good.
Oh, with steaming white rice. Ooh.
Oh, yeah. Wrapped in some Kim and... it's delicious.
Spam wasabi. That's not so crazy.
No, I think it's delicious. But you have the conversation with people from the United States or Canada, and they look at you, Spam?
You
Really?
know, so many people kind of look down upon Spam, but I bet they all have Spam in their pantry. Everybody eats Spam.
Yeah, I think it's great. Another great dish, of course, is from China and served in a lot of different Asian countries, and that's the century egg.
What's a century egg?
A century egg dates back well over 600 years to China and is made primarily from curing a duck egg or quail egg or chicken eggs in ash, clay, salt, lime, and rice hulls for weeks at a time, so it becomes
black
or
green.
green.
Yeah.
And it has a very distinct taste. Sometimes the pungent odor isn't so much enjoyed, but
Chewy texture too.
Chewy texture, and it adds a really interesting flavor to a lot of dishes.
Well, you can find this in Korean Chinese restaurants as well.
Right. It's a great dish. I love it.
I just didn't know what they were called. They're called
century
eggs. Okay.
Last time I was in the Philippines, we had that for one of the sides for breakfast. And I was like, I haven't had this in a long time. Of course, in Japan, you have fugu, the Japanese puffer fish.
보거.
Yeah. So you can actually die if it's not cooked properly.
Right. You have to take out the intestines.
Yeah, you have to do a whole bunch of things, make sure it's cooked properly. You have to be a certified chef to be able to prepare it. So
Tetrodotoxin.
Yes.
I saw it in one of the CSI episodes.
Yeah. Well, I think someone actually was in the hospital recently in Japan by someone had falsified their cooking credentials and was hospitalized.
Oh, for not handling pufferfish.
it quite properly.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite dishes, also from the Philippines, is balut.
What's balut?
Balut is a delightful dish. It's a delightful dish. It's said to enhance male virility. It is a fertilized duck egg. So traditionally, it's a duck egg about 2 weeks or so old, and it's served with some vinegar, some salt. So it's a hard-boiled egg, kind of.
Can you see the duck inside?
Well, we'll get to that in just a second.
Okay.
So you chip off the top, and then you drink the amniotic fluid, which becomes almost a soup, and it is delicious. It's very, very tasty. And then you peel away the eggshell, and then you have the embryo inside. And
how developed is the embryo?
the embryo is developed enough depending on when you actually get the balut. The egg yolk, of course, tastes like egg yolk. We've all had hard-boiled eggs, so that's no surprise there. The big surprise is the embryo inside, and can be very, very small or very, very large with feathers and feet and things. But it's very, very delicious, and a lot of people are put off by the actual appearance of the duck in the egg. But taste-wise, it tastes just like a great roast duck, and it's fantastic. And you can actually get these here in Seoul at the Haewon Philippine Market on Sundays. And they're very cheap. Very, very, very good. In Scotland, one of the most famous dishes there is, of course, haggis.
Kind of like our sundae, isn't it?
Right. It's another type of blood sausage type intestine cooking. It's very, very good.
Yeah.
Very good. Going back, well, it's a couple different places. Suckling pig, popular in Asia, Europe, and the United States. I have never had this actually in the United States, but I have had it in the Philippines. And
baby pig, right?
Baby pig, cooked up, roasted whole. So I think of it as a smaller version of lechon. So the meat, because it's a baby pig, has never really worked that hard. So it's very tender. Very fresh, juicy. Very soft, juicy. It's all mother's milk that the baby consumed. And the skin's also very nice as well. So when you fry it up, it's very crispy. It's delicious.
Okay.
Very delicious.
One more dish before you wrap up.
Well, I think we have to go to the Midwest United States, since we haven't been there yet, for the fried brain sandwich.
Whose brain?
Well, Actually, a fresh calf or pig is then sliced thinly, battered, and then fried, and then served up like a hamburger.
Oh.
Tasty.
Really?
Maybe you add head cheese to that as well. You have brain and head cheese together.
At least it's calf or a big pig brain, not human brain.
Yes, exactly, exactly.
All right. I hope we've put some people off their lunch today.
Well, I think every travel, you should be adventurous with your food choices as well.
Well, you sound like you're an adventurous guy. Me, not so much. I'll stick with what I know and what I like. Thanks very much for bringing those crazy foods in, Steve.
It's been my pleasure.
See you again soon.
Absolutely.
Steve Miller, the QiRanger, with Hit the Road, telling us about all the crazy foods you can find around the world. And that's going to do it for 1013 Main Street on this Friday. Thanks, as always, for being with us. I'm An Jang-hyun. Have a fantastic Friday.
So there you have it. That is this week's podcast. Thank you very much for listening. I really do appreciate it. If you have some feedback, please send me a message at podcast@QiRanger.com. You can find the link in the description taking you to the show notes. You can tweet me at QiRanger on Twitter. You can leave me a message on Facebook or on the blog. Please let me know what you like about the podcast. Please let me know what you don't like about the podcast. I really want to make season 3 even better. I have some ideas, but I'd love to hear from you on what we can do to make this podcast absolutely rock. That's right, rock. We're gonna rock around the clock. Oh yeah. Next week is episode 20 of season 2. It's the last episode of the second season. Hopefully we'll be able to meet up with one of my good friends and have an on-location segment. I'm actually really jazzed about that. We've never done that on the podcast before, so hopefully we'll be able to do that. But until next time, may the road always rise to meet your feet. May the wind be always at your back. And may you have an absolutely fantastic day. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll talk to you soon.